spirituality extends beyond the church. Did you know that prayer, sex, and eating share similar psychological benefits? How much do you know about spiritual stress reduction? Let's talk about it. What up, everybody? Welcome to Talk About It Tuesday. I am your host, Tiffany Story, and you are tuning in to my online vlog for Living the Stress Life podcast. And so I appreciate all of you guys who are tuning in. Try to make sure I turn my comments on so I can see the comments as they come in. Sometimes it's a little tricky, just be completely honest. Um, and so I don't always get a chance to see who's in the room because sometimes my comments are tripping. But uh we just gonna keep it moving. So thank you for tuning in. So today we are talking about the psychological benefits behind spiritual self-care, right? A lot of times when we focus on spiritual self-care, many of us think about organized religion. We think about, praying or attending church or shouting or meditating on the word. But honestly, spirituality is so much bigger than just organized religion, just believing in God or just believing in Jesus. And so I really wanted to focus on spiritual self care because there's so many psychological benefits, so many mental health benefits to actively practicing a spiritual self care routine. So if you don't have a spiritual self care routine or not quite sure what that even is or what that looks like, you have tuned into the right place. So I'm gonna jump into it. I don't like to take a long time. Talk about it Tuesdays is intended to just give you quick, helpful hints, right? Or not hints, strategies or tools that you can use every day, and kind of build these mental wellness practices into your everyday routine. So I want to start kind of by talking about why spiritual self care is important. Well, for one, spirituality makes you feel connected to others. It makes you feel a part of something. It makes life feel more purposeful or make you feel like there's some goal for you living and navigating through life. And so I guess let's start at before you create a personal self-care routine for spiritual wellness. um, do some personal reflection, like really ask yourself, you know excuse me guys, what is the meaning of life? What is my purpose? What gives me hope? How do I get through tough times? How do I find comfort? How am I able to tolerate other people's views or life issues? How do I make attempts to expand my awareness of not just myself, but people who differ from me, different ethnicities, different races, or religious beliefs? And how do I make time for me to really relax and decompress in my day? That's what spirituality is all about. It's more than just believing in some higher power or believing in God or believing in something beyond yourself. Spiritual self care is taking those beliefs and going deeper with it and making it an active part or active practice in your life. So, let's talk about specifically what health benefits you get from prayer. Because when most of us think about spiritual self care, we think about praying, we think about attending church, we think about reading the Bible. But spirituality, again, like I said, is much deeper than that. But we're going to focus on prayer. So when you pray, prayer is like meditation. Right? It's really considered a form of meditation. Prayer, you're not just going out or sending this request out in the world. You're actually looking in internally. As a practice, prayer is a form of setting an intention. It is not a plea, but it's more so a resolution, right? And those resolution can take many forms. But when you pray, you become very relaxed and you go into a meditative state. And that's a state of your mind and body. So it reduces the experience of anxiety. I'm looking at my notes, y'all, because I want to make sure I'm staying on task. It elevates a depressed mood, it lowers your blood pressure, and it also helps to stabilize your sleep patterns as well as autonomic functions like digestion and breathing. Um, I haven't done this in a while, but at one point I was actually doing sound bowl therapy. You can go on Spotify and actually look up different sound bowl songs, I guess, or streams. And so I would actually choose different sound bowl streams that were for sleep. And I would listen to that maybe 20 minutes before I would go to sleep. And what I start finding is that when I would listen to sound bowl therapy and do sound bowl therapy when I was laying in the bed before I was going to sleep, that I would actually slip off into a meditative state where I almost felt asleep, but I was like highly aware. And so I could hear my breathing relax. I could feel my body being relaxed. But I wasn't completely conscious, but my senses were still somewhat tuned in. And then after I would be like that for a while, I would hear, my kids or something like that. And I would, you know, turn my sound bowl therapy off, hit my light, and go to sleep. My husband Lamar really loves the Calm app. And so we've been using the Calm app to sleep. We listen to rainfall, light thunderstorm, and I found that when he plays that throughout the night, I sleep so much better. My body goes into a deeper sleep state, which has various health benefits. And when you pray and you go into a meditative state and you feel more grateful, or you feel happier or at peace, your body starts to produce those feel good chemicals like oxytocin, like dopamine, like serotonin. And I know that you guys are tuning in, who've been following my podcast, or tuning in to Talk About It Tuesdays, you've heard me talk about dopamine and serotonin, and those neurotransmitters are chemicals, those feel good chemicals, right? And so it's important that in order for us to get to a place where we feel good about ourselves, we understand the process and what happens when we do certain things, or when we engage in certain behaviors. And so prayer is one of those practices that really help us take our mindset to another level. So, um, focusing a little bit more, going a little bit deeper about prayer, there was this study group that I found really interesting. And there was a study back in 2005 where they wanted to see some of the benefits of prayer, like study the benefits of prayer. And so, in order to really see the benefits of prayer, they wanted to kind of scan the brain and evaluate what happens in the mind. So they took a group of people who um, were not into prayer, and but they were open to prayer or open to meditation. And so they took two groups. They had one group that did positive affirmations, where they weren't necessarily focusing on like a higher power, like they were just focusing on like positive self-talk, like I am love, I am blessed, I am happy. And then they took another group that really engaged in um prayer or affirmation or self-talk that was connected to a higher power, like God is love, um um God is patience, I am a child of God. And they went through these spiritual meditations or spiritual practices, and what they found is that the people who actually engaged in spiritual meditation showed a greater decrease in anxiety and stress, and a more positive mood. And they also tolerated pain almost twice as long when asked to put their hand in ice cold water. Y'all thought I was probably going to say something different, right? And so I thought that's really interesting. For many reasons I can't even get into right now at this time. Like one of them being, there's uh, a consistent theme or narrative throughout history where African Americans were thought to experience no pain or less pain. And so when we would have people study us or do research on us, or even operate on us, they wouldn't give Black people anesthesia, because they felt like we felt no pain. But one thing I can say about African ancestors or the Black community, we've always had deep spiritual ties, whether that spirituality was Christianity or whether it was, our older religion. Um, we've always had a connection to a higher power. And so it was really interesting how you're able to tolerate more pain or take on more stress when you have a connection to a higher being. Okay, so that's prayer. So, how is prayer and sex, though, the same? Like, how does it have the same psychological benefits? Well, let's talk about sex. So, when you engage in sex, um, similar to what happens when you exercise or when you pray, the body begins to release these feel good hormones. Again, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, which are neurotransmitters that boost your feelings of happiness and relaxation. They cut your stress hormones in half, like stress hormones like cortisol. So, which is a stress hormone. It's a neurotransmitter that tells the body that you're not happy or that you're in distress, right? And so, similar to prayer, when you engage in sex, the body produces those hormones. Now, hear me when I say there are so many benefits to having sex. That don't mean go out and just have casual sex with anybody. Okay, you have to actually be engaging in a sexual intimacy in a healthy relationship. But if you have toxic sexual relationships or you're in a relationship with a abusive or harmful partner, someone who doesn't value you, the danger in having sex with that person is that sex does make you feel good. It does release those chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin that tells you you're happy, right? Which makes you feel deeply connected to a person that may be unhealthy or may not be good for you. And so a lot of times when I'm in therapy and I'm talking to different clients who are really struggling with relationship issues, struggling with self-esteem issues, and they're in a relationship that may be toxic, I always encourage them to stop engaging in sexual intercourse. Like, hey, work on this relationship without sexual intimacy, because when you're engaging in sexual intimacy with a person, especially a person that you're not even sure if that person is healthy for you, your brain will make you believe that you are happy because every time you engage in sex, your body produces those feel good chemicals. So, going back to my original point, if you engage in sex in a healthy relationship, it also has the same benefit where it makes you feel good. But the difference is when you're in a healthy relationship, it helps reduce your stress level and doesn't create this toxic cycle. So, sex and prayer have very similar benefits because of those feel good chemicals. But again, you can even be in unhealthy spiritual situations. Like if you attend, certain organized religions that have these real rigid rules or where there's manipulation, there can also be some damage there too. And I really don't want to spend a lot of time focusing on that, but just know that sex and prayer, and used in the right way, used as a regular practice within your life to make you feel more connected to God or to make you feel more connected to others around you, when used properly, it produces very positive outcomes. So let's talk about food. How is food similar to sex? How is food similar to prayer? Well, when you eat, I'm gonna read this straight from the paper because I don't want to screw this up. So when you eat, the GI tract produces, it has billions of bacteria that influence the neurotransmitters, right? So they carry messages from your gut to your brain that says we are happy. But the caveat to that is what you're eating. If you're eating certain food like sugary things, really oily foods, fried foods, it will make you believe you're happy, but because those type of foods are actually damaging your gut flora, you can create a unhealthy relationship with food, because essentially the neurotransmitters from the gut are saying we like this, but really that food is toxic for the body, and over time it begins to produce bad bacteria. So it's important to understand that there is some health benefits to eating that make you feel better. But if you're not eating the right things, then it's counterproductive, right? Our stomach is considered our second brain. And in order for our brain to function like it's supposed to, it has to get the right types of things. But when it's getting the right foods that feed the good bacteria, the long term effect is not only do you feel happy, but your body starts to perform properly. Your heart is beating properly because it's not having all this fat clog your arteries, right? Your lungs are functioning properly because blood is flowing like it's supposed to. And so when we talk about spiritual self-care, it's not just prayer, it's not just organized religion, it is about practices that allow your body to go into a state where it feels best, where it feels light, where it doesn't feel anxious or overwhelmed and heavy. And so I really want to, leave you guys with some examples of spiritual self-care. Journaling is a form of spiritual self-care. Prayer, again, is a form. Attending church. Holiday traditions that you do with your family, because it makes you feel connected to something larger, and it makes you feel like there's some purpose or meaning to life. And so when we think about, for many of us who grew up in the church or grew up in organized religion, what impact that practice or that community had on us, it was the sense that we were connected to community, that we were connected to something that was bigger than us, that gave us direction, that anchored us to purpose, that anchored us to goodness and morality, right? So for those people who are not, who don't know how they feel about God, or who don't know if they even believe that God is real, you can still practice spirituality. You can meditate, spending time in nature, breathing fresh air in your lungs, enjoying water, enjoying the birds in the sky. That's also considered a form of spirituality, right? Knowing that there is a whole world that's bigger than you. Do I believe in God? Yes, I do believe in God. Um, but at the end of the day, I know that there are other people who do not. And so I don't want to um I don't want to dismiss people who don't believe in the same thing I believe in, because there are benefits to spirituality. So even if you don't believe in God, know that there is a way for you to be able to engage in spiritual self-care that does not involve necessarily organized religion. You make that choice for yourself. For me, prayer, meditation, going to church, listening to the word of God, those things are important to me because, for one, they help me feel grounded to the people around me. It helps me feel like I also have a guide for life, right? And my thought has always been, I had someone ask me, why do I believe in God? And I asked them, my response to that was like, what do I lose from not believing in God? Like, yeah, there are a lot of things that are always not right in different churches, and but people are people. All of us are flawed, right? I don't believe in people. When I actually go through the Bible and I read those words and I try to apply them for my life, for me it's about doing good. I focus on very specific things, not harming other people, not lusting after someone else's husband, not engaging in unhealthy sexual acts before I've decided on who a mate is going to be, because it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy for us to jump from person to person to person, because every time we give ourselves to someone, they take a piece of us, whether we acknowledge that or not. I mean, heck, that's how STDs get spread. So, what am I losing by not doing these things, right? What am I losing by not being, um, um, not stealing or not killing, right? Or not coveting someone else's person? I'm not losing anything. actually, if anything, I'm creating balance in my life. I'm creating stability in my life by not engaging in behaviors that would create discourse. So, yes, you may not believe in God, or yes, you may not believe in organized religion, and that's fine. But I encourage you to really study for yourself the benefits of engaging in spiritual self care. Again, being out in nature, meditating, journaling, um, having a sense of community and fellowshipping with others, and engaging in healthy eating practices and healthy sex with the right partner, right? With hopefully what I recommend, a partner that you've committed your life to and they committed their life to you, and you guys are committed to each other and each other only. So that is my Talk About It Tuesday. Um, I was a lot, and it's a whole lot of places I could go with that. I mean, honestly, I could break diet, prayer, and sexual intimacy down into their own categories and spend a whole 2, 3 hours talking about it. But I really wanted to just give you guys some little nuggets of what you can do during a time of discourse when we got countries are on the brink of war. We still fighting a whole pandemic. I mean, the economy is up and down. When all this is going on, you need a way to stay anchored. You need a way to be grounded and to relieve anxiety. So hopefully this helps someone. And until next time, you live your best life, living through your stress life. Holla.